Okay, so welcome to this episode 61 of Who the Heck Are We? Yes, that's episode 61. So our podcast is now a member of the Globally Ballin Network. Episodes are now available on video. You could go on YouTube, click on the Globally Balling Network channel, and subscribe by hitting the bell button. Part of the Globally Ballin Network is the Globally Ballin podcast, where you could take a surface level view of sports and opportunities around the world. Another show is called 5 Minutes With, where players themselves take analysis of plays and game stats, and that's what you call 5 Minutes With. Next is Hang Time with Denise Densai. Watch their latest episode with Maddie Madayag and get well, Miss Maddie. We saw what's happened, but we wish you well, Miss Maddie Madayag. And of course, last but not the least, is an eternity of basketball with our brothers, and Claro calls them Titos, and that's Noel
Tama.
Zarate, Noel Zarate, Charlie Cuna, and Sid Ventura. So an eternity of basketball. Now the show is brought to you by Chops to Go, New Era, Hinuluban Farms, Georgie's Delight, Arfatelli Milk Ice Cream, and Cuts Apparel. Here you go. So keep showing it. And Cuts Apparel, do check them out. They have their cycling gear on board. So that's at Cuts Apparel PH. So for episode 61, we have a special guest, Claro and Jane. He's just currently back from our very successful Olympics. You know, I've known him because of our both of us. You know, we've been in workshops with him. You know, and he has famous lines, di ba, Claro? Uh,
Listen to
yes.
this crowd
Listen
roar.
to this crowd roar. So, why don't we welcome Mr. Sir Sev Sarmenta, international
Woohoo.
sports broadcaster, the legend. We are not
Hello, sir.
worthy.
I've never been this nervous for a show.
Ay,
Ang
Manong.
bihira. Grabe ang, as in, pwede tayo mag-Tagalog, ano, okay lang?
Oo naman.
Opo,
Oh,
sir.
grabe.
Oo naman.
Grabe kayo. Bukod sa following nyo, at saka sa ganda ng mga graphics nyo sa Instagram, may sponsors kayo. Wow! Wow! Hindi na tinatanong yung who the heck are we? You're somebody! You've got sponsors! And
Oo nga, Sir Sev.
Fun
Yeah.
times.
that's inspiring, di ba? Pagka may ganun, sige. It's great to be here with you guys. It's been a while since we chatted virtually or even face to face. Yung mga meetings nating sa newbies, ano, we would normally have dinners and meriendas and maybe for another time. Glad to be home and glad to see all of you.
That's right. So, ayun nga, it's good that you're back home. You know, Sir Sev, you came from a very successful Olympic stint, no? You were part of the congregation or the delegate that did the sports broadcasting, no? So, Sir Sev, tell us naman, how was it overall for you being called and being part of the, you know, Olympics? It was not supposed to happen, di ba? It was supposed to postpone it,
It was
moved it.
postponed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was postponed from last year,
Yeah.
but they still held on to the year. It will still
Yeah.
forever be known as Tokyo 2020
Yes.
because very practical. The materials had already been made, the merchandise had already been made, so changing it would have been too much of a job to do aside from the fact that they had to take care of COVID. This was a challenging Olympics. I've been to two previous ones. Claudia, I told you I've been to Sydney in 2000 and I was in Seoul in 1988. Those were relatively less challenging than Tokyo. Tokyo was difficult because of the layer of protocols that we had to observe. Airport pa lang took us, Carlo Paminto and I took about 2 hours and a half to be able to go through all the health protocols, the different layers that we had to observe. They had to check our apps and everything. So it took a while, and we were on 14-day quarantine, which meant studio, hotel studio, hotel and very, very limited movement inside Tokyo. We could only move after 14 days. So even sila Gretchen Ho at saka si Paulo del Rosario had a very difficult time. Although they had more mobility, there were some places where they were not allowed. They were actually denied access. No,
Oh,
like Paolo was and Gretchen could not interview our rower. Um, we also had Gretchen and company and her team not being allowed to go to the golf course to follow Jubik Pagunsan. They were able to join the golfers only on the last 2 days, I think. So it was a challenging Olympics in terms of getting to interview the athletes, getting to speak to the officials. So it needed some creativity. So lahat ng nalalaman natin uh, sa creative reporting at saka sa abilidad ay ginamit na siguro natin dito sa Olympics na ito.
wow. Yeah. You came in without, not part of the TV5, but you were called in by another international broadcaster.
My assignment, my original marching papers together with Carlo Pamintuan was to be an international broadcaster for a group known as Densu Broadcasting. Densu is the distributor of the Olympic and Asian Games program to certain countries um, in the Asian region and some other parts of the Middle East. So our commentary was not limited to Filipino athletes. Actually, my relationship with them started dyan sa mga picture na pinapakita nyo yung sa Jakarta Asian Games noong 2018. So I did sports that were not normally my usual sports: equestrian, handball, synchronized swimming, um, and I had to learn them almost overnight to be able to do. And uh, I'm glad that I did because I now can say that I can do these sports if ever I am asked to do them again. Now, for this Olympics, I also did some sports that were not my usual assignments. I did badminton, table tennis. Um, what else did I do? I did a bit of basketball, 3-on-3 basketball, and one basketball game and two volleyball games. Not that much because there were other broadcasters as well. Yung assignment ko sa boxing, um, many of our colleagues in the Philippines had difficulties getting into the studio because of the different health protocols. So we decided in Tokyo, sige kami na ni Carlo ang gagawa. Although, and to be totally honest, we were limited to the studio and we did it off tube. Um, One of the realities of sports broadcasting nowadays is there are not too many commentary positions. But this does not affect the live nature of the event because as it was happening, especially in the digital era, sabay yun. So as Hidilyn Diaz won her gold medal, Carlo Pamintuan was calling the action, and we were tabi and we were all crying. I can do a ton of stories on that. I'm sure we'll get to that in a
Yeah.
little while.
Claro?
Pero, sir, the Olympics was in such a crazy time. And what was running through your head when you confirmed that you will be going all the way to Japan in the midst of the pandemic?
Of course, my wife was hesitant, given that every day I was watching NHK news, and every day there was something new that was not working in Japan. The state of emergency, the slow vaccine. But Carlo Pamintuan and I were talking before we left, no? And he said, "Sir, if there is one country that can do the Olympics under these difficult circumstances, it would have to be Japan. The
Yeah.
discipline, the culture, the cooperation of the people, um, and they were so pleasant and they were so accommodating and polite. There were some minor incidents where in some countries would clash with them, but uh, how can you get mad when you were submitting your, I'll say it, your saliva test to very accommodating uh, ladies who were saying, "Ohayo gozaimashita, domo arigatou gozaimasu," and you would get your test result in just a day or so. Yung sa airport, mabilis. Took us just 1 hour, 2 hours to get our first test result. What was going on in my mind is that um, two things. Sana maka-gold na Pilipinas because pag pinagsama ko yung edad yung tatlo equals my age, no? So in my lifetime, I wanted to see and experience the Filipino flag being unfurled in the middle, the Lupang Hinirang being sung, and Hidalin Diaz gave that to us, and it was a moment I will find very difficult to forget for the rest of my life, and I guess for all of us for that matter. The other thing that was in my mind also is to get home safe. Um, it's also still difficult. Sa aeroplano, very limited yung number of people. In fact, the way yung aeroplano worked, there were people in front, wala sa gitna, and everybody else was sa dulo. And salute to the staff of Philippine Airlines. Very difficult for them to work. They were all in PPEs, but they all kept us very disciplined, very organized, and we all behaved on the plane. Social distancing, physical distancing, and everything.
How many Olympics did you cover, sir, in your
This
career
is
so far?
this is my third. First was Seoul in '88, Sydney in 2000, and this one in 2020, 2021.
Pero if we go pandemic aside, sir, although this is a bit tough, what made Tokyo 2020 stand out from your previous experiences
Ah,
broadcasting the
this was a
Olympics?
good question. This was the best Filipino participation. No question about it. One gold, two silvers, one bronze is not something that you get every day. I did the Seoul Olympics. Arian Sardegna won in bowling, but it was not an official sport. There's always an asterisk to that. Leopoldo Cervantes won a bronze medal, but not too many achievements in that particular Olympics. In Sydney, wala. Zero
Zero.
tayo doon. Wala tayong medal doon sa event na yun. So this has got to be unforgettable. Compared in terms of impact, may halong lungkot, Claro, sorry, na nalungkot ako dahil ang gaganda ng venues, ang gaganda
Mm.
nung atmosphere, ang ganda ng lugar. And I would have wanted to see the Japanese sports fans, and they're so fun to watch, di ba? Because we've seen them in events. They're really crazy when they watch their sports, and they clean up the venue after they make kalat, di ba? That's why nalungkot din ako. Carlo and I went to the basketball venue, that Saitama Super Stadium, Super Arena is a beautiful venue. I think 30 Ravenna plays there occasionally. Such a beautiful venue. Ang layo-layo niya sa IBC or the International Broadcast Center, but it's worth it because we saw France play against Slovenia. And the rumors about Luka Doncic being guwapo are true. Guwapo talaga. Diba? At saka consistent siya. In the course of the game, natawagan pa rin siya ng technical.
So I think we can end the episode, or this is a
Yun na
perfect
yun.
way to
Yun na
segue
yun.
to Jay.
Yun na yun. Tapos
I
yung
love
mga
it.
ang nakakatuwa din guys, and Jay, you'll appreciate this. I think there were marching orders from the organizers to perform as if there was a crowd. Even the voice or I don't like to call them barkers anymore. Parang hindi na appropriate in term na yun. It's the Coliseum announcers. Yung sa boxing, ganda ng boses. Diba?
You
And
mentioned that.
first at the red corner. Sabi ko, wow, boses pa lang. And yung basketball was quite good and enthusiastic. Yung volleyball was okay. The nice thing about these guys is that they studied the pronunciation very well on how to mention the names. But although, to be totally honest, I PM Noel when I was going to do the France Italy game. Alam mo naman si Noel, una ka na, would you like to know the presentation? Would you like to know the pronunciation? Diba? Ganun si Noel diba? Unahan ka na yung bigote nun, gano'n pa yan. Pupupitak pa ang bigote nun So I did. reached out to him and he gave me a great um, pagka nagkaroon tayo ng newbies, papakita ko yun sa mga susunod na workshoppers na yun. Exact pronunciation guide from Noel Zarate. And it really helped in that game. Galing-galing ko, may pakulot-kulot pa ako ng Fournier.
Si Evan.
Nicola Batu. Yeah?
Social naman, sir.
Ang trick naman dun. Ang trick mo naman dun, papasasound mo French ng konti with the right pronunciation. Di ba? Di ba? Isipin mo yung volleyball na ginawa ko, China against, ang mahirap yung Turkish pronunciation. Yun ang mahirap. Igololu, ang daming, and Noel, I couldn't reach Noel at that day. I think there was a game going on, so hindi ko siya makulit about it. So I had to do the research about it also. It was a challenging Olympics. It was rewarding because of the Philippine success. If I come out of this still negative on Monday, it will be an even bigger success kasi uwing-uwi na ako eh.
Oh, of course, I'm sure.
Yes. Pero, thank you for answering that Luka Doncic question because I was dying to ask that. Yun una ko tatanong actually, wapo ba si Luka Doncic? But thank you for answering that question. But going to the broadcast booth, of course, hindi lang ikaw as a broadcaster, you also have the production guys na yung makasama natin sa TV5. Of course, you also have some other foreign broadcasters guys. Parang merong OFW feels, di ba? Just wanna know kung meron din parang sense of Pinoy pride then within that international broadcast center.
Oo naman. Although ubus na yung English ko at the end of on August 8, ubus na wala na talaga eh. Every day we had to speak in it. I think Carlo and will be first to admit also that we were among some very familiar and well-known voices in the sportscasting business, and we probably don't know them by name in the Philippines, but we were very honored to be working with these senior gentlemen from England, from Singapore, from Australia also. Yes. We actually learned how to. Actually, Claudia, matutuwa kayo kasi tinatanong namin mga Australian, so how do you actually call cricket? So tinuturuan nila kami pa how to call cricket.
Oh, wow, I love it.
Cricket and hockey and wickets and ini-explain. Matyaga naman sila. So we were also asking, do you call it a game or do you call it a set? A Brit, di ba? Definitely, it's called a game. It cannot be called a set. You only can use that in volleyball, but in badminton or in table tennis, it's definitely a game. Okay. Tapos sabi namin, ang masaya din naging criticism, and I think sometimes it's just a matter of taste. Yung merong, kasi may two sets of broadcasters yung Denso, yung local, tapos yung Olympic Broadcasting System guys. I think na o-offend yung mga taong sanay sa mga sports na Brit. Pag hindi Brit yung nadidinig nila, pag football halimbawa, no? Pag very American, ayaw nila. Kasi there's a certain way the Brits call, and Claudia knows this, the Brits call football, di ba? There's a certain way that they do it. Pero niloloko dami sila. Tinanong ko na lang talaga yung mga Australiano at mga British. Really, what do you mean by lovely and exquisite? What's an exquisite sound? Really? It's an actual use of deafness and force. When in tennis, you use your backhand slightly and do an absolutely wonderful job of just doing some touch. And this is during the breakfast and you're listening to them. And finally, they asked us, and sabi mo Jay, yung Pinoy pride, tinanong kami, how do you Filipinos do your basketball in two languages? Sabi ko nga, kung isa nga, 3 pa nga, 4 pa nga ako minsan, di ba? Pag nagkapampangan, nag-Ilocano ka pa, at saka nag-Ilonggo ka pa. So, they were fascinated by that. Why don't we just do it though in straight English? There are different reasons, of course. It's a joy to do these international things. It's tiring. It's challenging, especially, as Claro pointed out, there was COVID. It was hard. Iwasan yung mga tao eh. Para ka nasa Starship Enterprise. Di ba? Laki-laki ng IBC, iwasan yung mga tao, di ba? Umubo lang isang tao, gumagano ng mga tao, di ba? And everybody was trying to be socially distant from each other.
Yeah, unlike that photo, no?
In Seoul, I think that was the event when we watched that's Ron de los Reyes, Bea Lucero.
I think you were
Um,
doing high jump ata yun, no? If you look at it,
no, I think that was they were cutting from different events, but actually we were there for Jackie Joyner Kersey yata, the American century. Siyempre, we wanted to watch the 100-meter dash,
yeah,
diba?
100-meter dash.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I think it happened that we were kaya punong-puno yung stadium sa Seoul.
Yeah. Speaking of the 100-meter dash, but that's one of the highlights of the Olympics, no? There was no crowds. You mentioned earlier. Like it looked kawawa. You know,
It looked very empty. You could not say listen to this crowd roar, but I think they did a good job in athletics to make it feel like there was a crowd. But it was so obvious in some sports, volleyball, basketball. There were some sports I think the Japanese would have won more if there was a crowd. Um, I didn't think there was a need for a crowd when um, uh, Ireel beat Nesty Petesio because I thought that was a badly decided fight. Um, I have nothing against Nesty winning her silver, which is a source of joy. But I don't like the way the Japanese fighter won it because akap ng akap eh.
yeah,
Akala ko boxing, yung pala wrestling. And the referee wasn't doing a good job. Now, that's always hard call. Alam mo naman sa Twitter, marami tayong kaibigan, bigla na lang I should have propped up the silver medal of Nesty. But I was disappointed kasi I was
yeah.
disappointed na talo si ano eh. In terms of the audience, it was the missing factor. Eh. I think this Olympics was incomplete because there was nobody in the stands. So many other events would have been much more beautiful. I'm sure the gymnastics and other events would have been more spectacular. Ganda kasi ng mga venues eh.
Yeah.
Ganda ng mga venues.
You know, Sir Sam, you mentioned about the because we you know we the three of us we watched the boxing because we wanted to film it and put it on our IG account, no, and we actually did hear you feel that disappointment. And as a broadcaster, I think us like as training and broadcasters, we feel na parang oh my gosh, sayang kasi we wanted her to win the gold, diba?
So yeah.
How, yeah, diba?
If I get the gist of your question, the challenge there is kasi when you cover the Philippines, wala na bias ka na eh, to begin
Yes,
with. Diba?
yeah.
We've always talked about this. Bias ka na. You want your kababayan to win. But you also know, like we can debate back and forth. I've done this with some boxing guys. I really felt that Carlo Paalam did not win his fight. There are some people who say he should have, but I thought the knockdown in the first round created that impression in the judges that the opponent was in charge, and maybe that's was Carlos undoing. But the Petesio fight, I was so disappointed because it was mishandled, and I will never forget yung pag-aakap ng Japanese fighter. It was a bad fight, and I'm sure Nesty will learn from that experience. And I think she has plans to fight again in Paris, which is now just 3 years away, no longer 4 years away, and she will be at her prime. At saka, I think, I may be wrong, I don't think professional women's boxing is as mainstream yet. So Nesty might be thinking, and Nesty had quite a windfall naman sa kanyang winning the silver medal. So I'm sure she'll be in a good place in preparation for Paris in 2024.
Okay. So you know, you mentioned athletes. They get sometimes they get the energy from the crowd. You know, Sir Sev, you were inside the studio watching TV. We saw the footage of one of your kasama, si Sir Nick Earnshaw, no? You were in the headphones and they saw the disappointment. If you were inside the crowd doing the Nessie Petesio, would it have been a different call? Would you, how would you be running the broadcasting?
That's a very good question. I would have looked for a Filipino. Magtatagalog ako, di ba? I was doing it for TV5, so ang naiisip ko nun, tayo eh. Di ba? Kaya ang una kong word was, this is so heartbreaking. I could have said, nampucha naman, no? Di ba? I could have said, wow, luto ito. I could have said that, but again, you switch on your broadcaster's head and say, how can I frame this by revealing my own disappointment without offending anybody? So I remember I said, this is so heartbreaking.
Yes.
I thought the judges would see it differently. Now, if I had done it in the stadium, I would have looked for Filipino face to assure me na hindi ako nag-iisa doon sa lungkot ko na yun. I've seen that many times. In Busan in 2002, I've seen that in some Gilas games that I think we should have won inside the venue but have not won. It's never easy. When you see the Philippines losing, it's never easy. But it's offset, of course, by the times when the Filipino wins. The Heidelin Diaz thing will be unforgettable for a very long time.
Yeah. You actually heard Carlo cry
Yeah,
during the
yeah.
yeah.
Then, actually, on the joyful moment there, we were all celebrating. A friend, I posted this. A friend from Singapore was videoing us, and she said, "I'm doing this because I remember when they felt that way in Rio when their swimmer won in the for the first time in Singapore's first ever Olympic gold medal. Schuling,
Schooling,
So
yeah.
Schooling.
schooling.
Yeah.
Schooling,
yeah,
schooling. We had
yeah.
the nanny na Pilipino na Pinoy.
Yeah,
Yes.
totoo. Ayun nga pala istorya. No? Tapos, the Singaporean broadcaster was telling me that he could have afforded not to compete in this particular Olympics, but was pressured too much because sinabihan daw sa Singapore, malaki na ulo, sinabihan daw na uh, you have to do it for the country. Tuloy, I don't think he performed very well this time around.
In
Yeah.
this Olympics.
No
I
medal
don't
for him. Yeah.
I don't think he even made the finals.
Yes,
Alay
sir.
ko. Yeah.
And
Mm.
his body wasn't in as great shape as it was when he
Mm.
picked up his
I
gold
guess
in
many of the
Rio.
athletes were in that particular predicament. Huh?
Mhm.
That's a great question. Nothing prepares you. You can prepare all the data. Di ba? Tayo as broadcasters, we prepare everything. But nothing prepares you for the heartbreak and nothing prepares you for the joy and the euphoria. Uh, you can rehearse, you can write it down what you want to say, but you have to use your broadcaster's head and what's the right thing that I can say here? And in a social media era, you then realize that even the best prepared lines will not sit well with anybody.
Mm.
Natawa
Yes.
ako doon natawa ako doon sa Nesty Petesio. I should have been more upbeat daw about the silver medal of Nesty. Wala namang question. I'm happy about that, but I'm also disappointed. I would be lying. I would not be sincere if I said, "Oh, this is joyful. She's won a silver." Diba? If that's the first thing I said, I would be remiss in my duty in presenting it to our country.
That's a very well said, Sir Seb. Caro?
Mhm. Yes, sir. But sir, I think your signature line, "Listen to this crowd roar." I think what's wonderful is you can easily carry that to any sport, but the crowd was gone. So, do you have to remind yourself, hey, there's no crowd. So, hindi pwede yan automatic when there's a legendary play that you've just called.
Um, ang nangyari nung boxing, I would have thought na kung may crowd, pupunuin ng mga Pilipinong mga workers sa Japan yun. Kasi ang dami
Yeah.
namin na-meet ng mga Pilipinong volunteers na nagtrabaho. Pupunuin ng Pinoy yun. Ang
Mm.
dami Pilipino nagtatrabaho sa Japan actually. Both in the entertainment business and in other professions as well. Huh? You know what was guiding me? People listening at home. I know most of the fights were tanghaling tapat and their lunch times were interrupted by this boxing match. I wanted to make it worth their while. my favorite moment probably will be Carlo Paalam's referee stop contest victory against the defending champion. That was, I thought, very spectacular. Yun ang pinakamalakas kong yes. Ako na lang nag-ingay, Carlo. Claro, ako na lang nag-ingay. Um, and but I sort of felt that the Philippines was holding on to its lunch or pasubo pa lang or inantay matapos yung boxing bago kumain. Sana, ang hahabol ko na lang maging masaya yung tanghalian ng Pilipinas. Yun na lang
Unless si
naisip.
Yumira unless si Yumira ang kalaban, ang may
Kasi
fight.
yung Mir, actually, no, ang mahirap dun sa fight niya, and Carlo did that fight, nakalaban niya yung kalaban ni Rocky noon sa Rocky 4 or 5 ba yun? Yung
Drago.
si Drago yata yung kalaban. Kahit anong suntok gawin ni Yumir, kayang-kayang tanggapin nung kalaban niya, who eventually lost in the final, by the way. A really strong boxer. Yumir tried his best, but it was not meant to be yung kanyang journey natapos sa bronze medal.
But before we go to the halftime break, sir, one last thing for my Tokyo Olympics questions. Did you, may hidden gems ba in terms of pagkain? Because Japan is a wonderful place for food. Did you see anything hidden there that, wow?
I guess when you're used to Japanese food sa atin, there are no more surprises. But Family Mart was suddenly a delightful place. And I'll say why. Not because I endorse it or anything, but it was the only place where we could get food for the hotel. Our hotel had no food except for the same breakfast. No, most of our meals were purchased in the Family Mart because we were tracked. Hindi ka pwede pumunta anywhere. We had to buy, siguro, ewan ko, baka may relationship yung hotel namin at saka yung Family Mart, sila yung may-ari, ano? Pero, hindi ka pwede pumunta. So, nung nakawala na kami, we lived in a small suburb of Tokyo known as Nishikasai. And then we discovered small, quaint shops for ramen, for sushi, for tendon, tempura. There are no secrets anymore. The only joyful last experience, of course, was the conveyor belt sushi.
Oh,
Diba?
yes.
Oh, wow.
Umiikot yung sushi, di ba? So it's about 120 yen yung pinakamura. So you end up spending 1,200 yen, which is about 500, 600 pesos. Bondat ka na. I thought that was one of the best meals we had in Shibuya when we could make pasyal na around Tokyo.
Beautiful.
Exciting.
Japan's beautiful.
Yes.
And the food's amazing. Okay. So, Sir Sev, we'll do our contract duties. We'll go to the break and then we'll continue after the break. Claro? Okay, so this is episode 61 of Who the Heck Are We? Our podcast now is a member of the Globally Ballin Network. Episodes are now all on video. So you could catch us on Globally Ballin YouTube page. Just click on the bell button to subscribe. Part of the Globally Ballin Network is the Globally Ballin podcast, where you take a show and take a surface level view of sports and opportunities around the world. Next is 5 Minutes With. They take again analysis with players and game stats with the players themselves, and they have Nico Salva still part of that show. And next is Hang Time with Denise Tensai. They talk more on volleyball. They have volleyball players for men's team and also the women's team. And the recent episode is with Maddie Madayag. Last but not the least is An Eternity of Basketball with Noel Zarate, who's helped Sir Sev with the pronunciation of other countries' last names, Charlie Cuna and Sid Ventura. And our show's sponsors are Chops to Go, New Era, Hinalaban Farms, Jody's Delight, Our Fratello Cereal Milk Ice Cream, and Cuts Apparel. Cuts Apparel, not only do they do basketball shirts or football shirts, but they're also going into the cycling jerseys. So check them on at Cuts Apparel PH. Again, this is episode 61. Jay?
All right, cool stuff. Dr. Manong Sev, because maganda na- Nahihilo ko ha. Pero I wanna go to broadcasting. To concentrate on broadcasting because mentioned earlier na ang daming napupulot na information when you were doing the Olympics or for any sport for that matter. You have educate the information about the sport itself. So, i-review mo yung mga rules doon, kung paano ba nakakapuntos, kung paano mananalo. And then you have the stories of the athletes themselves. Kung paano yung pinagdaanan nila, kung saan ba sila nag-compete. And then you have the emotions that are involved during that said match or that said game. Ngayon, sportscasters really find this difficult, or aspiring sportscasters find this really difficult on how would you mix all together those information and put it on the right place at the right time. You call this starting workshop the of the game. Can you discuss a surface level of that aspect that you always taught us?
Translate nyo nga ng konti yung
Oh,
question.
sige.
Nag-chat
Sir Sev, ayan. Laging
Naglag.
si Sir J. So, from from what I understand, like, you have the emotions of a player, you got the game on TV or on the court. How do you bring the rhythm of the game inside a sport? Let's say for boxing, on the first round, do you hype them up already, and then come on the third round when it's already bakbakan? When does that happen?
Um, the rhythm, kasi alam mo sa Olympic coverage, medyo tikahon na yan eh, no? Lalakad yung beauty shot, lalakad yung boxer, aakyat sa ring. There are two things. How much can you put in, lalo na if a Filipino is fighting for another gold medal, how much can you squeeze in
Yeah.
without stepping on the voice-over announcer, yung barker or yung Coliseum announcer? Kasi pag di ba, there's no sense, and now from the Philippines, so Carlo Paalam in red. There's no sense you're speaking and this guy is speaking and the audience will never understand what you're trying to say. So the rhythm of the game, nung sa boxing, sa akin was the beauty shot of that venue. Uh, I remember the line. I forget the name of the venue. The so and so venue is normally a sumo wrestling venue, which is the traditional wrestling sport of Japan. Today, warriors of a different kind will go for gold for their respective countries. For the Philippines, an attempt to win another gold medal for a country that has not won a gold medal for a long, long time. Aspiring for one more is okay. While on the other hand, the opponent, I remember, in Taga Britain, had tried before in 2016, but he has his own story as well. So you tell the story of both fighters. Kasi built-in na yung rhythm ng Filipino trying to win. But the rhythm was upset nung na-knockdown si Paalam.
Carlo.
Na-knockdown siya. Boom! Nagulat ako eh. Sapul eh. Sapul
Oh.
talaga. And he tried desperately in the second round. Cycle. Parang hindi today. Parang ayaw talaga. Hindi talaga. He tried. He took the third round. But the second round, and that upset my rhythm also, Jay, no? So sabi ko, and reality came in, Cycle. Prepare yourself. It's not going to happen today. Ang mindset ko naman sa Petesio is that prepare yourself, baka makalusot. Baka makita nung judges in a different way. Kaso, nung tinignan ko yung scorecards at the end of the second, talagang ayaw pagbigyan si Petesio. So, where is your rhythm of the game there? Your rhythm is guided now by who your primary audience is. If it was the international Densu broadcast, you can be as detached as you want. But you have a Filipino audience that's listening and you check yourself. I really felt that Carlo Paalam did not do enough to win that fight. But that is not the moment to criticize it.
Yes.
That is the moment you're thinking of Carlos' family that's watching. I think in Cagayan de Oro, you're also thinking of kababayans. They're thinking, kung talo na, okay na yun. Hindi na kailangan diinan yan. And the rhythm stops right there. The rhythm stops right there. How do you prepare for it? You just gather all the information and you pray before the start of the fight that God will give you enough words and enough energy to be able to see. It's the longest 9 minutes of your life. A boxing match is the longest. Basketball is easy. Basketball is 12 minutes per quarter. Pero ang 9 minutes of boxing, bang, 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 tapos. It's a different rhythm.
Wow. Sir Sev, you mentioned a lot, especially with the vocabulary, getting to know the sport. Your history in sports broadcasting, where did it actually start?
Nako. It started with a joke. When I was in school, I was always impersonating Joe Cantada, the great broadcaster. We would do, it's Ateneo, no? We would do cheer rallies. We would do, George Javier, the comedian, was in school at that time. We would do 2-on-2s, and I would use Joe Cantada's voice sa Blue Eagle Gym, sa Loyola Center. Then later on, when I was working in advertising, we would turn off the audio on PBA, and I would fool around with it, diba? Using joke at and now firing from all cylinders, there is the undefeated, blah blah blah. Because I can recall Joe's voice almost automatically because my father introduced me to Joe Cantada watching Pistorama early 60s and 70s. Then suddenly a director told me, who was also working at Vintage, why don't lagi mo niloloko yung sportscaster, hindi mo kaya seryosohin yan, hindi ka kaya mag-audition. I was already a voice talent, a commercial voice talent. I was doing commercials, making decent money. Then I tried. Nag-audition ako. Natanggap ako. Kakatawa yung audition ko. First audition ko was as a Sev Sarmenta. Then the final part of the audition was as Joe Cantada. And tawa ng tawa yung mga tao. This guy must have something if he can imitate Joe Cantada siguro. And from there, I joined the radio panel of Vintage, spent 10 years with them, and wow, buhay pa pala yung mga red jacket na yan. Nilibing na namin yan. But it was a joyful 10 years of learning and knowing, kung minsan sa TV, pag pinalalabas yung lumang games ko from the 80s, boy, I'm so bano. And ang sama talaga, di ba? Kulang sa confidence pa but you had to start somewhere. The 90s siguro may buwelo na ako ng konti. So I was getting more games. I was learning more from Pingoy Pengson, from Kinito, from Andy, from Wakit Trillo. So that's the journey. And eventually I had to leave Vintage. We had some differences. Then I did the UAAP, went to Channel 4, moved around to Solar, and then finally here with TV5. My God, that picture is makes us so young. That was 1994 in the Hiroshima Asian Games.
Wow. No? Sino kalaban?
I think that game was Philippines against Korea. Talo ang Philippines that day. And I think the upcoming game was the finals. It was Korea against China, and nanalo ang Korea.
Wow. So, sir, in terms of your vocabulary, did you have to study that? How did you improve?
Yes. Kung sa pang sports, yes. Nung araw, Kinito Henson would give us a lot of vocabulary words pang sports that we could use. But I also, in a pre-internet, pre-digital, pre-cable era, got tapes from my brother-in-law, si Sunny David. He would send VHS tapes to me of NBA games. And I would watch them over and over and over again just to get the rhythm, na sinasabi ni Jay, as well as the vocabulary and the tone that was necessary to be able to do more basketball games. Ba't ganyan ang internet sa bahay mo, Jay? Ano ang problema mo? Hindi ka gumagalaw yata.
Ayun.
So, I have this friend called Crashy. And then there's one thing, siyempre, natutunan ko rin
Wala.
sa inyo, that I do is stand up front of the caveat to
Wala.
really keep still. Not sa inyo yun.
Right. Text mo na
Sana may
lang.
mag-sponsor ng
Nagtatrapo.
internet namin at saka mic, no?
Text mo na lang kay Claudia yung tanong mo.
Ang
Yes,
next
I
phase.
I haven't talked to Jay in a very long time. Okay, sige, so yun ang journey ko. Ganun ka circuitous na journey.
It's an amazing journey for me. I mean, you're a legend in the PBA, legend in sports. You cover volleyball, racing, equestrian. You can see it in the Olympics. What for me? What aside from basketball? What other sport? Basketball, and volleyball, because I believe those are the two main sports that you do now. What is it that you?
I didn't catch the tail end of the question. But
What are the other sports that you enjoy covering?
Well, I did 14 years of a program called In This Corner on Channel 4. So I did a lot of provincial jaunts and boxing in the real gutter of Philippine boxing, wherein there were 4-rounders, 8-rounders, and the difficult life of a boxer. I also did the cycling tour. Some of the pictures are there on your screens. I did the cycling tour, which is never easy because you sleep on a different bed every night, and then you wake up very early in the morning. I did 2 years of that with some of the legends of the cycling coverage industry, si Phil Liggett, and I learned a lot on how to cover cycling. Nawala na yung sport na yun sa akin, ano? It's been I think now, especially with my Densu experience, I'm not afraid to take on any other sport. I would love to learn more about gymnastics though and the nuances because grabe, no? Like Carlos Yulo missed it by 0.17 lang. I would like to understand why he lost out by 0.17. Hindi ko hindi. Ayan Claudia, yung aking equestrian, no? Ang social ng boses ko diyan. Ano elegante ako diyan.
The trotting of the horse.
Yes. The elegante yan. The prince so and so, and this is a sport wherein there's no age, but mostly it's royalty that participates. Yes. But the interesting part of this sport is that the horses don't care if they want to suddenly let it all out and defecate on the they just do it. They don't care. Oh, really. I've seen it. Very elegant. Kakat ng palayo. Tapos biglang yung wala. The horse couldn't care less. He's gonna let it. When he has to go, he has to go. Or she has to go, she has to go. I've seen that happen.
My God.
Call of nature, I believe so.
Yes. Tsaka kabayo yan eh. Hindi naman magsasabi, excuse me, may I go out? Diba?
About your career, sir.
No, but
yes, sir.
But the interesting part is that ang ganda ng relationship ng kabayo at saka ng rider. And Mikey Guang was telling me when she won in 2002, she would actually talk to her horse and we need a perfect ride. And she exactly did that on the last day of the Asian Games in 2002 to win a gold medal. I saw it on video lang. Still one of the most uplifting moments to see a Filipina in that sport. And Mikey finally winning gold medal in the Asian.
Yeah. In that equestrian, they took out a sumo wrestler actually, a statue of a sumo wrestler.
Oh, I read that, yeah.
Natatakot daw yung mga kabayo doon sa sumo wrestler na yun.
That's also possible, Kasi kaya siguro ang surroundings ng equestrian very peaceful because I notice also walang predominance of the color red except yung I theorize here. Of course.
Claro?
But about your career, sir, since it started off a joke, did you see that this joke would propel you to this? You're in the Olympics. You're in the granddaddy of them all. The greatest sporting events.
when I first got the call to do the Olympics in '88 because Joe Cantada was sick, sabi ko, the greatest chamba of all. And all you want is to do one Olympics lang. That's it. That's it. Then suddenly in 2000, they said, why don't you go to Sydney? Okay, Sydney. Itong Olympics nitong 2020, uh, the call occurred only in 2021 because we knew that there was no turning back for the Japanese. I think what people don't understand why the Japanese continue to do the Olympics is that it's not in their culture to not honor a commitment. They will do it at the risk of their own pandemic problems. But they had committed to this. They wanted to finish it. Para maka-move on na sila. Did I imagine it to be this colorful? No. You just, PBA lang, masaya na eh. Di ba? PBA dream lang. Di ba? Masaya na ako eh. Tumungtong ako sa TV, napanood lang ako ng nanay ko minsan before she died. Masaya na ako noon. But the Olympics was my father's dream because he was always the student about the Olympics. So be careful what you ask for. Sometimes you're given more than a buffet actually.
Wow. Yeah. Yun. So, okay,
Oh, I
so,
got one for sir. Yes, just
yeah,
before we
sige.
go to Jay's. Sir, if you weren't a broadcaster, would you just be teaching full time? Because I think you're also a teacher by
I,
profession.
yeah, I probably would. I probably would, but I think also that I would have spent a little, if I hindi nagkaroon ng interesting turn towards sports broadcasting, I would have ended up retiring as a producer or a creative director in the advertising industry because I was working in
Mm.
advertising, uh, both in the agency and as a supplier. So I probably would have stayed there, but I'd probably be dead already from all the tension and pressure of that particular job. There's also tension and pressure when you do sports. Um, you can imagine, I was thinking the morning of the fight of Nesty and Carlo. I said, nakatulog kaya si Nesty si Carlo? Ako kasi hindi. Uh, di ba? Kasi in our hotels in Japan, solo-solo eh. Walang roommates eh. Because of COVID eh.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. So I was awake at 5 in the morning. The fight was at 2 o'clock Tokyo time. And I would say, nakatulog kaya sila? I wonder what was going on in their minds. Nung sila yung ako magsasalita lang ako eh. Diba?
Mhm.
Sir Sev,
Wow.
I think Jay has something for you.
Ano sabi?
Ayan.
I'll try to flash Jay.
Wait, baka na ba? Ayan. Ayun.
There you go. There you go.
Dami.
Do
Dami.
you?
Dami. Wrong players, wrong names, wrong players. Kuminsan, mali talaga. Then second, ano pa ba yung mali ko? On air. Hindi ko maalala kung sino yung kalaban ng isang team. I'm talking on air and I'm talking and I've half memorized the script until that moment when I said it's going to be 7 Up. At that time, 7 Up was a PPA. It's 7 Up against. Wow, hindi ko maalala sino yung kalaban. I turn around, the funny part, wala na yung video nito eh. The funny part is I turn around this way, hoping that sa floor, nandun nagwa-warm up sa likod ko yung isang team. Walang tao sa likod ko. And I am dying. And I say, I will try to remember, I say on the screen, I'll try to remember who the opponent is. Hindi ka ba? Matay yung producer, gusto akong sakalin. Marami. Ano pa yan? Marami pa yung mistakes. Lalo na yung yung final score, medyo hindi naman ako. Yung subtraction ng score, yan, pamatay yan. Di ba? Yung sabi ko naman sa inyo sa mga workshop natin, basta 110 to 110 points yan. Wag lang 80, wag lang yung very weird subtraction, 86-79.
I get where you're coming from, sir. Yes.
679. it's still a manageable lead. Di ba yun ang, di ba, Claude, yun ang masarap sa football. It's 2-0. Di ba yung nil, Brit na Brit eh, di ba?
Yeah.
Nobody says 2-0, di ba? It's always 2-0. Di ba?
Yeah, that's right.
Sir, actually, nagkamali ako ng score dati sa sobra ng goals.
Saan ka nagkamali? Sa football?
Yes, sir.
Ano sinabi mo?
I said 4-0, 5-0 pala.
Sa Pilipino, forgivable. Pero sa totoong football person, he would have been...
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hooligans would have gotten
Tumingin ako sa scoreboard, mali pala. Ini-erase na pala. So, I learned my lesson to keep track myself. Yes.
Gaya niyan, may mga styles sa volleyball that I probably don't often do. Halimbawa, 9 serving 6. Hindi ko laging ginagamit yan. Or 6 serving 9. Parang sometimes I feel you're showing off when you do that. Kita naman, lalo na kung TV. If it was radio, fine. Pero pag TV, it's 9-6. Kaso it gives a reference point kung sino nagsiserve. Kasi nawala na yung side out sa volleyball. Inabutan mo ba ang side out, Claudia?
Oo. Yeah, nabuta ko side out.
Kasi di ba you're friends with Miyaka, no? Lim? And
Yeah.
I think si Miyaka yata inabot yung side out yata.
Naabot ko yun, side out. Tagal na nun. Forever na yung volleyball game na. Hindi pa tapos ang first set.
That would have been bad for television, ano? And pagka 5 sets, nagtitingin na kami ni Jay. Pag si Jay ang barker sa baba, sisigawan ko yung galing sa taas eh. Ay, ano naman ginahan mo? Bakit 5 sets na naman tayo?
Oh my God. But last question lang, Sir Sev, before we actually close, no? Among like in terms of your bloopers, this is actually Jay's questions. How do you follow it out? How do you fix it? Kasi ako made mistakes also as a Coliseum announcer. Nagkakamali akong siniswitch ko yung coaches. Ganun minsan. Yeah, I did that. Buti na lang bubble kami, wala nanonood. But how do you recover from your mistakes?
Una, wag lang yung score. Wag lang yung score ang magkakamali. Wag mo lang yung kung sino nanalo. Wag lang yung final decision. Sa gulo ng basketball at probably football, magkakamali ka sa kung sino yung tumatakbo, sino yung nakashoot. May daya ako dyan eh. Pag hindi ako sure, inaantay ko yung cut ng director. Ba, De La Cruz shoots, so and so. Here's an attempt from afar. Hindi ko makita, hindi ako sure. Na-shoot. That's a 3. Tumakbo yung player. And it's De La Cruz already with 17 points. So may mga shortcut na to avoid it. Pero pag nagkamali na, one, let your partner correct you. It's all right. Dr. J and Kinito have done that to me endlessly through the years. And I know that it's not an ego thing. It's just that we should state who the player is correctly. And bihirang magkamali ang mga analyst na mga nakatrabaho. Check mo lang yung ego mo, magkakamali ka at a certain point. Pero may mga mistakes na enjoyin mo lang. Halimbawa, talagang mali talaga. Yung isang play, pumasok yung tira, hindi pala pumasok. Aminin mo na lang na mali ka.
Yeah. Wow. I know we're showing photos of you with the legendary Andy Howe. Matagal na kayo, di ba? Dr. J.
And we still consult each other on a almost daily basis kung how to do games, and we talk about the games that we're about to do. He's been a very supportive partner through the years, and we can actually finish each other's sentences. Kasi alam mo, ang model ko kasi nun, yung partnership nila ni Joe Cantada, yun lang ginaya ko na eh. Nung ginaya ko lang yung partnership na yun, and si June Bernardino, the late commissioner, said, ikaw na magtuloy na inumpisahan ni Joe. Sabi ko, naman, I will try. So, I had good teachers. I had good mentors. And I think we all need good mentors in our lives.
Yeah, and we have upcoming good anchors also uh, coming up into the PBA, like si Chuck, si Carlo, and si Charlie, and all that, which is good. So, Sir Seb, this actually ends our questions. We would now like to give you the floor, or the what you call the StreamYard floor, to say thank you or shout out to your fans. You know, yeah.
Um, Maraming salamat po sa pagkakataon nito to share this platform with dear friends who have done a marvelous job of asking the question, who the heck are they? I don't think we should ask that anymore because they've done a marvelous job. May ano pa sila ngayon. You should have seen their first show wherein walang ka-intro-intro and then may halftime pa sila ngayon. May mga plugs pa sila ngayon. And it's such a joy to see them move forward in the world. They are not just who the heck are they anymore, and they make a great contribution to the sports conversation. Uh, Magandang pagkakataon nito to say thank you sa inyong pagsubaybay sa aming coverage sa Olympics. Um, Kami ang naging parang mata at tinig niya sa maraming bagay. Doon hindi ho madali yan. Kasi gusto ho natin manalo. May mga moments po na ang Filipino athlete will not always win. And yun po ay bahagi po ng istorya. So, huwag ho kayong bibitaw kay manalo, kay matalo. Basta mga Filipino athletes po, suportahan natin hindi lang sa Olympics, kundi sa ibang mga pagkakataon na sila ay sumusubok magpatunay na ang Pilipino ay kayang sumabay sa kahit sino man sa mundo. So maraming salamat po sa inyong pagsubaybay at patuloy niyong suportahan itong mga ito.
Thank you, sir.
Hindi ko marinig yung isang J. De La Cruz na I have never
Ayun, ayun.
seen a moment, ever seen a moment where you have been compelled to be shut up, really. Okay. One
Okay,
day we
then.
will create a basketball court.
Ayun. Okay, so
Thanks,
Sir
guys.
Seb, yeah. We'll put you backstage. Magkukumpo lang kaming tatlo, and
Thank you so
then
much.
we'll close and we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, Jay, sorry you won't be able to talk kasi medyo scratchy ka, but siguro klaro na eh. Ayan. So, what you're
Uh-huh.
saying, Jay, is you're still learning a lot every day from Manong Sev. Yes. He's a great mentor, especially in the volleyball and basketball scenes for you. For me,
Mhm.
Claro, I watched the Olympics. I really followed it a lot. And I knew when Nesty Petesio lost, it was a heartbreaking loss. But I also felt the voice of Sir Seb when it was heartbreaking because we all wanted Nessie to win, right? And for me, that wasn't an issue because ramdam mo yung emotions and you felt that kind of emotions. Parang it was an extension, diba? There was an extension between me and the sportscaster, which was Sir Seb, no? And I'm such. This episode was fun. It was easy actually. It's very good, for me. Claro?
Yeah. Easy because it was very exciting talk from Sir. No? And then to add to your connection, of course, with our beloved national teams, the Olympics just meant so much more in this pandemic, bringing joy to all of us. Like what Jason Perkins said before with the PBA, them bringing joy. And I tip of my hat to people like Sir Sev. They really sacrificed to bring all the games to us. And what more, Sir gave us that behind the scenes talk to
Yeah.
know what goes through their head, what goes on. Ayun, family part pala yung naging suke next to the hotel. All the things like that. Things you don't see behind the camera. And of course, there's so many lessons.
That's right. All right. So again, on behalf of Clara and Jay, this is Claudia Perrine. So I will go back to our slides. Again, this is episode 61. We are now Who the Heck Are We is now part of the Globally Ballin Network. Part of the Globally Ballin Network is the Globally Ballin podcast, where you take a surface level view of sports and opportunities around the world. Another show is 5 Minutes With, where players themselves take an analysis of a game and they break down everything that they see. And another show is Hang Time with Denise Dinsai, with the last episode, Maddie Madayag. Again, get well soon, Maddie. Uh, and last but not the least is an eternity of basketball with Charlie Cuna, Sid Ventura, and Noel Zarate. And this episode is brought to you by Chops to Go, New Era, Hinalaban Farms, Jody's Delight, Arfatelli, Still Milk Ice Cream, and Cuts Apparel. Cuts Apparel, they also they're going to cycling gear. So look at them, look up at Cuts Apparel PH. Again, this is Claudia Perrine, and this is episode 61. See ya.